Mr. Kichom loved to listen to stories, but at the end of each tale, he always exclaimed, "That cannot be true." One day, he asked his teacher to tell him a story. He agreed on a condition that Mr. Kichom should not say "that cannot be true" at the end. Otherwise, he would have to pay a penalty. Mr. Kichom agreed. The story began. One day, an aristocrat was going to the governor's palace in his palanquin. On the way, he heard a bird crying. When he peered out, the bird soiled his robe with its droppings. He sent his servant for a new robe and put it on. A little later, the bird cried again, and when he peered out, it soiled his sword with its droppings. He sent his servant back for another sword. After some time, the bird came out again and dropped its load on his head. He sent his servant to bring a new head and cut off his own. "That cannot be true," exclaimed Mr. Kichom. The teacher said triumphantly, "You have uttered the prohibited phrase, and you agreed to pay some penalty." Mr. Kichom said slyly, "Oh, that cannot be true." The Tiger's Whiskers, Korea. There was an old hermit in Korea. One day, a woman pleaded with the hermit to help her regain her husband's affection. The hermit said that he could make a potion that could kindle love in the person who consumed it, but he lacked tiger's whisker that was one of the ingredients to go into its making. The woman promised to get the whisker. She saw a tiger near the river and was frightened. She brought him food and soon they had become good friends. She patted his head and ran her hand down the side of his face. One day, she deftly pulled out one of his whiskers. She rushed to the hermit's house and gave him the whisker. He dropped it into fire. "What have you done?" said the woman. "You promised to make me a magic potion." The hermit said softly that she did not need any potion because through her gentleness and patience she could win her husband's affection, who surely was more responsive than a savage and bloodthirsty tiger. The woman returned home. When she saw her husband, she remembered the tiger and the hermit's words and moved forward with a smile on her face. Immune to flattery, Myanmar. A king was told that a man who had made a career of flattery was coming to his palace. "Be on your guard," warned his advisors. "This fellow wins the favor of everyone through his flattery and then gets them to part with costly gifts. I am too hard-headed to fall for such tricks," said the king. "Let him come." When the man came, he fell at the king's feet. "How honored I am to be in the same room as the mightiest of monarchs," he intoned. "I find myself blinded by the radiance of your beauty, the glory of your presence, your divine charm, your grace, your elegance." He went on in this fashion for about 20 minutes. When he paused for breath, one of the advisors seized the opportunity to have a quick word with his royal master. "Didn't we warn you, your majesty?" he said. "He is a glib talker." "Have no fear," replied the king. "As I told you, it's not easy to trick me. The moment he starts to flatter me, I will throw him out. But so far, he has spoken nothing but the truth." Top questions. Nepal. Once, Bhupendra Prasad asked his daughter-in-law, "Can you guess how much I spent on your wedding?" "About the cost of a sack of rice," she replied. He thought she was a nitwit. He asked her to explain it. "What you spent on the essentials of the marriage amounted to a few hundred rupees only," answered the woman. "The rest you spent to enhance your prestige. That was not on the marriage but on yourself." A few weeks later, they all met up with a funeral procession when the daughter-in-law asked a mourner, "Is it just one corpse or 100?" Bhupendra was greatly embarrassed and asked the reason for her folly. She told, "Some people have many dependents. When they die, the dependents also die." Then they came upon laborers working in a field. "Are you reaping this year's harvest or last year's?" asked the daughter-in-law. He was angry, but she explained, These laborers are perennially in debt. I was inquiring whether they were working to pay off the last year's debt or had paid all and were beginning anew. Bhupendra was highly impressed by her intelligence and wisdom.
Thanks for watching. Do like, share, subscribe to Sahil Book House.